Here is operational excellence expert Andrew Miller speaking to a group of executives and MBA students at the Rotman School of Management about the concepts from his new book.
To interact. I'm glad to be here this morning. So I want to start off by asking if anyone's been to the Apple Store lately. Just put up your hand if you've been to the Apple Store lately. Okay, so most people here. So I was there a few months ago. I had to buy a new laptop. I walked in. It's a pretty, obviously, vast store, pretty impressive architecturally. But you walk in and you're greeted immediately. Somebody says, "Hi, how are you? What are you looking for?" "I'm looking for a laptop." "Okay, John over here is going to help you." So you walk in, you're immediately greeted, you're immediately partnered up with a sales rep who's going to help you with what you need. They showed me the different sizes, the different screens, the different whatever it might be. I pretty much knew what I wanted. So as I'm standing there, we're talking about the different sizes. Finally, I say, I want this one. They pull out an iPhone. Within about 30 seconds, they've put your order into the system. They ask you to pay right on the spot. You don't have to worry about lining up in the cashier anymore. As I'm talking to them about future plans and, do you want Apple Care or extended warranty, any of that stuff, about 60 seconds later, my computer just shows up. I'm standing there. We're talking. Payment's gone through. Somebody comes out with a bag and hands me my computer. And all I'm thinking to myself is, that's very impressive. I'm here for less than 10 minutes. I've been paid. They've paid. I've got my stuff. I've bought whatever I need to buy in terms of accessories, warranties, Apple Care, training, and I'm out the door in 10 minutes or less. To me, that's operational excellence. That's what it really means to be operational excellence. So I'm not going to say I giggle, but I'm always curious when, especially retail companies say, what's the future of retail in terms of our customers and our strategies? And I think it's right in front of us. I think Apple is a great example of what the future of operational excellence looks like, because they've thrown away a lot of the common models for retail. Just to focus on retail for 1 second, to say, why is that operationally excellent? Because you're in and out in 10 minutes to buy a fairly high-end purchase that can be a very complicated purchase. It can be a very nerve-wracking purchase if you don't know what you're looking for. But they make you feel comfortable. They greet you at the door. They partner you up with somebody right away who knows exactly what you're looking for. They usher you around the store, showing you exactly where everything is and what you need. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? They've thrown away the old model of I've got to stand in line to pay for my stuff, because they pull out their iPhone and you pay right there. Credit card, whatever you want to pay. And it's tied to their back system so that while they're talking, while they're processing the payment, somebody else in the back room is getting your stuff, preparing it, and giving it to you. So you don't have to wait for somebody to go back, pull it off a shelf while you're sort of standing there going, what's next? Where'd they go? They disappeared. That's operational excellence. The key in my book, which if I were to sum it up in one line, is operational excellence is not a methodology, it's a mindset. It's a way that organizations think in terms of how do we improve the way that we operate as an organization? Today, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. It's a mindset that people have, that they come to work every day saying, how can I make this place better? How can I make this place better for myself, for my fellow employees, for my customers, for my suppliers, for our business partners, for my bosses? How can we do things even just a little bit better? It doesn't have to be disruptive. Sometimes it can be, but it doesn't have to be. But it's about making progress towards excellence, however a specific organization defines excellence. So I think that there's 4 or 5 key levers that organizations can pull in order to improve profitability and performance. And the main reason I wrote this book, which I'll get into in a minute, which is why do I think operational excellence needs redefining. But operational excellence is important, but it's got to be tied to something. So operational excellence in and of itself, what does that really mean? You've got to tie it to profitability. You've got to tie it to performance. We're not going to go through all these initiatives just for the sake of doing it. We've got to get some kind of a result. So I just want to talk briefly about 4 key levers that organizations can pull. And these are all covered in the book, but these are really the 4 ones that I see where the most successful organizations have mastered the ability to pull these. The first is innovation. Now, innovation is a big word. I recognize that. So the way I define innovation in terms of operational excellence is the adoption and application of new ideas and best practices. So it's not necessarily we've created something brand new and disruptive that's a technology or a medical device or something like that. It's about how do you adopt best practices? How do you best apply them across your organization to get to maximize your results? And those results might be profitability. It might be performance. It might be employee retention. Every organization is going to define that a little differently. But to me, innovation is about how do you adopt and apply best practices and new ideas to maximize those results for your organization. You can call that applied wisdom. That's what I call it in the book, is applied wisdom. How do you take the internal wisdom in your organization and apply it across the entire organization to maximize the benefit? The second lever is collaboration. Again, another big word in terms of the definition that we can use. The way I talk about collaboration is a means to an end. But you've got to determine what that end is. So you always have to ask yourself as an organization, why collaborate? Because again, if we collaborate just for the sake of collaboration, what are we really trying to achieve? You've got to know what you want to achieve by collaboration. Can we do something faster, cheaper, better if we look and collaborate internally or externally? But if you can't, why would you collaborate? Why would you make things slower? Why bring more people into the mix if you're not going to be able to improve the result? So you've got to look at saying, what's the improved result we're trying to achieve? And can we use collaboration to speed it up, to do it better, to do it faster, to do it more cheaply, to provide more value to the customer? Again, collaboration as a means to an end. The next concept, the next lever is speed. Now, I'm going to say something that may sound counterintuitive, but sometimes you actually need to slow down in order to get the best results. And I think a lot of organizations, when they hear speed, they focus on, we've got to put the pedal to the metal. We've got to go as fast as we possibly can. And I'm a big proponent of that in many cases. But the most successful organizations also know when they need to slow down. So they've got indicators in place that allow them to determine when should we speed up, when should we slow down in order to maximize our results. And the fourth and final lever I want to talk about is performance. And again, when I talk about performance, it's about how do you identify opportunities in your organization in areas that you don't normally look. So if you think of the analogy of, you're wearing a miner's hat and you've got the microphone just started working apparently when I get closer. I'll use this hand. You get the miner's hat, you got the light on, you're shining that light in the deep, dark corners of your organization. Those are the areas where there's a tremendous amount of opportunity because most companies don't look there. So instead of shying away from those corners and saying, well, that's a compliance department, or that's something that we'll just leave over there. The example, I do a lot of work in healthcare. So a lot of my hospital clients literally have their procurement departments in the basement, next to the morgue in many cases. So think about that if you're another department saying, we need to go talk to procurement. Well, let's have them come to us because they're in the basement next to the morgue. That's an area of an organization that you don't often want to look at because it's sort of forgotten. It's down. It's in the basement. And one of the things I've encouraged my clients to do is literally to take procurement out of the basement, literally and figuratively, meaning move them out of there, but also look at them as a potential revenue generator for your organization. Think about things a little bit differently. It's not just about compliance. So it's about shining that light on those deep, dark corners of the organization where you can find tremendous opportunity. And then, of course, it's about taking advantage of that opportunity. So once we've identified it, how do we take advantage of it? And that goes back to the first lever, which I talked about, innovation. Once we've identified things that we can do, how do we best implement them, leverage them, integrate them, and make sure that we broaden the impact as much as possible? So why does operational excellence need redefining? It wasn't just because I felt like writing a book. It was because I was looking at the way that we define operational excellence, the way that we think about operational excellence. And operational excellence really started in the manufacturing space. So if you go back 30 plus years, for those of you who may be familiar with, the Toyota production system, concepts like Lean, Six Sigma, that's really where operational excellence, or at least the concept of operational excellence started, which is, how do we standardize processes? How do we eliminate waste? Those kinds of things. I think the problem we have now is we still think, in many cases, that way about operational excellence. So it's 40 years later. We've got lots of organizations who don't manufacture anything, who are trying to pull these concepts and methodologies out from the manufacturing world and apply them to people, to retail, to services. And the concept is a good one. Obviously, you want to try and apply what's worked elsewhere to your own organization. But the problem is, when you focus on methodologies, a lot of them focus on problem resolution. So they work great if you say, I've got a problem, I need to fix it. I've got to eliminate waste. I've got to remove a couple of steps. But what they don't do is they don't allow you to think differently. So you've got a problem. You were here, your performance was here, you had a problem, it got down to here. You implement some kind of methodology that restores you back to past performance. But if you look at a lot of the most successful organizations now, they're not satisfied with restoring past performance. They want to blow performance out of the water. They want to disrupt industries. They want to create levels of success that no one's ever seen before. So the old way of thinking about operational excellence is about problem resolution, issue resolution, restoring past performance. The reason I felt it needed to be redefined is we need to start thinking about growth and innovation, not cost-cutting and problem resolution. It's a very different mindset that organizations have when you say, we're going to implement some kind of methodology to try and fix our problems, versus we don't even know what the problems are. We're going to create a brand new industry, a brand new product. We're going to create a need for a customer. So it's very different in saying we're going to solve a problem versus we're going to create a need, right? So that's the mindset difference that I really want to focus on. And the reason I felt like redefining operational excellence was the right time to do it. Because if I think of some of those methodologies, and I'll just mention Lean and Six Sigma, Total Quality Management, some of these ones that came out of the manufacturing world in the 80s and are now being applied to service organizations, to healthcare organizations, to retail organizations. And from my experience, my clients, is to varying degrees of success, but the level of success is not sustainable and it's not very high. So they might get some short-term results, but those results aren't sustainable. And I think there's a couple of reasons why there's limitations in these methodologies, and which is why the focus has to be on the mindset of excellence, not the methodology. And like I said earlier, they focus on problem resolution, not growth or innovation. So if you think of something like the iPod, or if you think of a company like Amazon, or a few years ago, if you think of, and it's funny that Dell is here, but you think about how Dell changed the way we buy computers a few years ago in actually allowing you to customize your own computer online. So if you think of those three quick examples, if you implemented a methodology in your organization, none of those three things would exist right now. If Apple had said, we've got to lean this process, or we're going to implement Six Sigma to try and find a new product, they never would have developed the iPod. The iPod was the creation of a need. Their customers weren't going and saying, boy, would I love to have a little device that holds 1,000 songs that I could slip into my pocket. That was a need that was created by Apple. A methodology wouldn't have created that need. Dell never would have created online customization for personal computers by resolving a problem or trying to find a need. They created that need. They said, how can we differentiate ourselves in a market where everybody's doing the same thing around personal computers? Well, what if we allowed people to customize it and made it easy? And our supply chain allowed us to get it there very quickly. So I could order it, I could customize it, and I could have it there within a week. Again, disruptive innovation wouldn't have existed if we were looking at what's the problem that we need to solve. And Amazon as a company wouldn't have existed if they were looking at what's the problem within the organization we need to solve. We're going to create a brand new type of company that's just going to be able to deliver anything within 24 hours. Doesn't matter what you sell. We're just going to build a huge base of customers, and we're going to provide them anything, and we're going to get excellent at warehousing and supply chain and distribution, and we're going to build the biggest, baddest e-commerce site ever. And we're just going to draw millions and millions and millions of people because we're going to sell everything and we're going to get it to them in 24 hours. Right? Those kinds of things don't happen when you sit down to say, let's implement Lean, let's implement Six Sigma, let's figure out what the problem is here. That happens when you have a mindset of, we're going to create something brand new, something innovative, and we're going to create a market for that.